Hi everyone, so today I want to show you a card that I did on a live stream recently. So it's called a Little Corner Easel card, and I've done it in a 6x6 version. So this is the 6x6, as you can see, and this obviously folds down and fits in an envelope for a 6x6. You've got space on the back to write, and we're going to be doing the space. We're going to be actually doing the space to write somewhere different on the one today, just so you can see different options. So that's the 6x6 version. And this is a landscape 6x6. Today I'm going to be doing it as a portrait version like that. So you'll see how that all works. So that's the 6x6 one. I also did a 5x7. This is the 5x7 landscape, and you probably recognise that house if you watch any of my videos. So this was one of the Rosa Studio dies that I did recently, and I actually just changed the roof up, just made it blue instead of black. So that's that one, and then obviously you've got space under here, so if you wanted to do space to write here you could. I've done space to write on the back, but yeah, and that just sits up like that. And obviously again, if when folded flat, that fits in an envelope for a 5x7. So that's that one. And then we also have the 5x7 but done portrait. So this was one I did on my, I did all three, well I did two on my live stream, and that was the sample card. So it's exactly the same as what we've seen with the landscape one. It's just that I've done it as a portrait, and I've just done little wings here to keep the little thing on. And as you probably just saw, there's space on the back to write. So that is that. And this would be great for a teenager or as a mail card. I mean, you can do what you want really. I mean, it's so versatile, this card, and it's so easy as well. It's super, super easy. So yeah, so these papers were Trimcraft Grand Plans. Really good papers. This set of papers here was from the Antonio Makes V.I.P kit for March. So head over to antoniomakes.com and use the code Louise10, which will get you 10% off. 10% off everything on the site, and also 10% off your subscription fee if you want to become a VIP. The die was obviously, as I said, Rosa Studio. Again, if you go to cocorosastudio.com and put in iced 20, you'll get 20% off your order. So that's that one. And then these papers were actually just from a magazine. They were free magazine papers. I can't remember. I know one of the magazines was Die Cutting Essentials, but there was like about 3 different magazines in the set. So that's where those papers are from. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start off with the 5x7 version, and I'm going to do this as a landscape, not as a portrait. I'm doing both of them as, no I'm not, I'm doing this one as a landscape, the other one's going to be a portrait. So the 5x7 is going to be a landscape. So you're going to need a piece of base card that is 7 inches by 10 inches, and you're going to need to get your scoreboard. If you want to, you can just use a 5x7 card blank, as long as it is actually 5x7. But if you haven't got a 5x7 card blank, then just get yourself a 7x10, and along the 10-inch, you want to score at 2.5 and at 5, and then you want to make just a little notch at 7.5, just a little notch, and then turn it round so that your 2 score lines are at the bottom, and then score along the side at 2.5. Okay, so you end up with that. And then where you've done your 2 little notches, you just want to join those up with a score line. So I'm just going to get a ruler, lay it down, make sure it's pretty much accurate, and just score. So you've got a diagonal fold there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mountain fold all of these 3 score lines. So you should end up with that. So your 2 score-lined panels, your 2 folded panels at the front of your card, and your folded edges on the inside. So that's the way around it. And obviously we're going to be doing it this way around. So next what you want to do is get yourself 6 matte panels that are 2.25 by 6.75. And then you'll also need 6 pattern panels that are 2 inches by 6.5. Now, just bear in mind, if you're planning to do the place where you write on the inside here, then you will need, one of those panels needs to be a white panel rather than a pattern panel. I've actually chosen a really plain coloured pattern for my second pattern, because I'm using 2 patterns, and so I'm going to actually use that as my part where I write on. But it's really up to you. If you want to go ahead and you want to do where you write on the back, you will just need a matte card that is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 and a white card that's 4.5 by 6.5. So that's if you want to do it so you write on the back. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my patterns on. So one thing you're just going to start off by putting your 2 pattern pieces on the front here. Okay, so that's the front of your card done. If you open your card up, you can go ahead and add the 3 more panels on these 3 sections here. Do not stick your pattern down to your mat for this piece here because we need to cut the triangle. Okay, so just leave them loose for now. We'll deal with those in a moment. If you want to go ahead now and just add in your other pattern pieces, and they're all going to go in there like that. Okay, so next you want to take your white mat that you've got and you're just going to lay it on here, and then what I would do, just get it nice and central where you want it to be, and then take a pen or a pencil, lay your ruler on. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold that over because it makes it easier to see it. And you want to take a pen or a pencil and you're just going to line your ruler up and then draw a line, and then we're going to cut along that line. Now you can measure it if you want, but I find this is the more accurate way of doing it. If you are going to measure it, it's approximately 1/4 of an inch on the top left, and then down the right hand side you're measuring approximately 2 3/8. Okay, but it is very approximate because if you've scored that slightly differently, then obviously it won't work out, but that's roughly what it is. So I'm now going to go ahead and I'm actually going to add some, oh no, I'm not. If you've got tape, if you're putting tape on the back, you're best to tape it now before you go ahead and cut it. So I'm going to cut this corner off like that. If you can see a pencil mark, it doesn't matter because that whole edge is going to be covered, so it doesn't matter if you see your line. Then I'm going to take the pattern piece. I'm just going to make sure mine is the right way up. It needs to be that way up. So let me just put this in here like that, and then I'm going to do the same again. So I'm just going to, let me just move that one out of the way. So again, it's going to lay that on, put my ruler over the top, work out roughly where it needs to be, about there, draw a line, and then we're going to cut that off. If you want to measure it, it's approximately 1/4 again and 2 3/8 again. So it's exactly the same measurements for the pattern and the mat. But I do advise, I mean, if you can measure it if you want, but you might want to try it with a scrap piece just to make sure it's definitely going to fit. So I'm going to go ahead now, stick that onto the mat, and then put that whole piece onto that section there. Okay, so if you're going to do the white piece on the back, then you're going to do exactly the same thing as you've just done here with your mat. Lay your mat on, work out where, you know, sort of eye it, draw a line, cut it. Same with your pattern. Do exactly the same procedures you've just done with this piece here. Okay, so what we're going to do next is this one that comes over here. I would quite like to have it so that we've got a bit of pattern on it. However, what I might have to do, I might leave it plain on this one actually. So on the previous one with the house, I did actually, let me just grab it. There we go, so here's the house one. So I've actually used the mat and the pattern that I cut off from here and used it on that triangle. But with this one, I've actually got a right way up. So the rose is actually going to be going the wrong way. So I don't really want to use that there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it plain, and I'm just going to put a little embellishment on that instead. So it's completely up to you whether you want to. If you do use that triangle, you will need to cut it down because your triangle will be too big for that little section. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add on my embellishment. So here is, I'm going to use the ice cream van that I used. This is the Coca Rosa Studio ice cream van. I just thought it was really good and it goes with these papers. So don't forget to use Ice 20 if you go over to cocarosastudio.com and check out my Coca Rosa Studio craft haul video, because I actually show you how to put this together and also how to put the house together. So I'm going to put that on there like that, so that when it stands up, your little ice cream van stands up. So I'm only going to stick it on one side, so on the lower half. So I'm going to go ahead now and just put some tape on, and I think I need to go where the bonnet is. So I'm just going to line that up like that. And actually I'm not going to put tape, I'm going to use pads, because I would quite like him to be raised off the card. Okay, so there's my ice cream van on, and as you can see I've only stuck him on halfway. I've got no overlap there, which is great. So now we're just going to go ahead and stick this down, and again I'm just going to use some pads. I'm going to use some little foam pads and just stick this down. Okay, so in the theme of the ice cream van, I've actually got these. I've got these stamps. I can't remember where they were from, but I stamped them up ages ago, and then just kind of heat embossed and did little, yeah, all kinds of glittery things. That one just coloured in. I did loads of stuff. So I've got these left over, these little three. So I'm going to stick them on there like that. I'm going to put the It's Party Time sentiment there, and the Celebrate is going to go at the bottom here by the van. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. Okay, so there's your finished card, and obviously all I just need to do is I'm going to put a happy birthday in the middle there. Yeah, so there's the 5x7 landscape. Obviously if you want to do it, you can do it that way around as well, but this is the way around I've done it. So obviously you stick this on differently. So next we're going to do the 6x6 version. Okay, so for the 6x6 version, you'll need a piece of base card that is 6 by 12 inches, and you're going to score along the long edge at 3 inches, at 6 inches, and then you're going to make a little notchy mark at 9, and then if you turn it round so that your score lines are at the bottom, and you score again at 3, just a little mark, a little notchy mark again, and that's going to be our triangular part. And then this is my little notch mark there, and I've got another little notch mark there. So I'm just going to turn it round and then just score between those two marks, join those two marks up and do a score line. And then you can probably see my score line there, and then we're going to mounting fold all 3 score lines. Okay, so for the patterns, I'm going to do this way, so it's like a portrait version. So for this, you're going to need 6 matte panels that are 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then on top of that, you're going to need well, it depends whether you want to do the right here or writing on the back. I'm going to do it so that we write on the back this time around. So in which case you'll need 6 matte panels, as I said, that are 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, and 6 pattern panels that are 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to show you how to do the piece on the back in a minute. So what you want to do, again, I've done 2 patterns. I've done this kind of triangle pattern, and I've also done this floral pattern. So I would like to have these 2 pieces on the front here, like that. And then so they're going to be front panels. And then on the inside, this piece here, I want to be the one with the triangle cut out of. So I'm going to go with that pattern for there. So I haven't stuck those down because we need to cut those out in a minute. And then we're going to have this one next to it, that one in the middle, and that one next to it. So we've got a kind of a bit of a mix. So when it's like that, we've got a bit of a mix, and then inside we've got a bit of a mix. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these 5 down, and we'll come back to this 6th one in a moment. So actually you're going to stick the 3 middle ones on, and I'm not going to stick the outside ones on yet, because what I want to do is I've obviously got this Jeep. This is one of the Coca Rosa Studio ones. The Iced 20 code will come up on screen for you, which will get 20% off your order. So if you check out the craft haul video that I did, it shows you how to put this together. Now that's going to go on the front like that, which means I need little tabs that are going to stick on there, and they need to go underneath these panels. So I'm just going to use a bit of scrap card. Now on my Jeep, I haven't got that much space. So I've got like I've only really got that little gap there to get this on. So what I've done is I've just cut this piece of scrap card so that it's the right height, so it's not going to appear at any point. And then I'm just going to cut this in half and then fold each piece in half. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not even, just roughly in half. This piece is approximately 2 3/4, but it doesn't really matter. Just cut that in half like that, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half. Obviously, if you want to do it properly and use a school board, you can, but you should end up with 2 little pieces like that. So both of the tabs, as you can see, I've just put, it's like a little L shape, just put red tape on both sides of the mounting. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take off the backing off of one side, and I want my Jeep to be quite low down. So I'm going to have him, he needs to be about here, I would say. So I'm going to put that little tab there, making sure the folded edge lines up with the folded edge of your card down the middle. And we're going to take the other one and do the same. So butt up the 2 folded edges next to each other. Like that. And then we can go ahead now and stick these 2 panels over the top. Okay, so I've stuck them on. As you can see, they stick up like little wings. So now we can go ahead and add the Jeep onto there. But before I do that, I think we're going to go ahead and just deal with this bit here, and we'll have the Jeep on in a minute. So what we need to do is we need to take our 2 panels, our matte and our pattern panel, and we're going to do what we did before. So we're going to lay this on. I'm going to put a ruler over the top and a pencil. We're going to line it up and just work out where the even border is. And draw a line. Now this time it's about 1/8 of an inch down from the top left, and it's 2 3/4 approximately down from the top right. And then we're going to put the pattern piece over the top and repeat the same process. Now on this one measures more like 1/4, well, about 3/8 down from the top left, and from the top right it's 2 3/4. So that is approximate. It might not work out right, but that's look like what it's going to be. So you end up with that. So I've stuck that down. So now we're just going to do this triangle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of matte card. I'm going to lay it on till it's got about the right border, and then just trim off an edge again. So the length along these sides is 2.5. So next we're going to take the pattern piece, and I'm actually going to flip it over, and I'm going to have the stripes. So again, I'm just going to lay it on and then put the ruler on and draw over the top. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick that onto there and stick the whole thing onto that corner. Okay, so that's what you end up with. So we can go ahead now and add some foam pads on the other side of here and stick this down. So that's stuck down, so that now adds as like a little prop for that. So I'm going to go ahead and add the Jeep onto here. So I'm just going to take the backing off here and add my Jeep. And so there's the little Jeep on. As you can see, it's sort of held on with little wings. So you need to make sure that's quite a sturdy card if you're using, because that's quite a flimsy thingy bob. And then I've got a happy birthday here, and I'm going to put that at the top here and just have it poking off. As long as it doesn't go over that line, it's fine. So I'm just going to add that, stick that on. So you should end up with it looking like that. So now we just need to deal with the back. So I'm just going to turn this over, and I've got my piece of mat that is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. Now my mat just happens to be white, so I'm not going to add a card as well, but a white card as well. But if you have a coloured mat and you need to add that and then a white card, then your mat needs to be 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and your white card needs to be 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. And I'm literally going to do the same thing again. So put my ruler down, and by eye I'm just looking to see roughly where it is. Now if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be 3 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure 3 inches and see. Yeah, it is actually 3 inches. So actually if you measure in 3 inches from both sides, then that should be the right amount to cut off. And then what you can do, I think the pattern, the white card will be the same, so that should be 3 inches by 3 inches. As I said, my mat is already white, so I'm just going to go with the one white piece. So I've cut out my white piece, which is great. It's also the mat. I'm just going to go ahead and stamp a greeting on here, and then I'm going to stick it down. So there you go. So there's your stamped bit on the back, and obviously this opens up and stands up like that. And it's quite nice. So that will fold flat to fit in an envelope for a 6x6 card. And then the other one we did, you could do it that way if you want to, but landscape wise, again, it folds flat to fit in an envelope for a 5x7 card. So yeah, so there's the 2 different variations, a 5x7 and a 6x6, one landscape, one portrait, and both can be done either way. So you could do that way, as I showed with the other ones. So obviously that's your portrait version. There's your landscape version of the 6x6, and then on this one you've got, this is your landscape version, and this is your portrait version. So yes, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, and leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.